You guys doing trade-ins today?
Yes, we are.
I've got some really good stuff in here, and I want cash.
Okay, awesome. We'll get started on that for you.
How long is it going to take?
With the amount of items that you have, probably about 25 minutes.
The first step when we take in a trade is to go through all of the items first. We have to double check everything, make sure that games are complete, see if there's anything that is damaged, anything we're going to pass on, anything like that. And then we are going to sort the items into different stacks. This makes it easier and quicker to enter the items. We have a stack of games that are just missing manuals. We might have a stack of items that have some sort of condition problem, so that's going to have to be marked. And we might have a stack of just random stuff, or maybe a stack of movies versus games. There's all sorts of different ways that we might have to sort things before we start to actually enter them into our system. Once we have everything separated and we are ready to actually start entering the items, the first step is actually to pull up the customer's account. If they don't have one, we have to create a new one for them. When you are trading in items with us, you have to be 18 or over. You have to have some sort of valid ID or driver's license, because we are responsible for keeping track of that information just in case the police come in looking for a stolen item. If we end up having a stolen item, we have to be able to tell the police where we got it from so they can continue their investigation. So we have to keep track of people's names, their address, their ID number, and a phone number, of course, as well. There's a few other things we might enter into our system to make their account a little bit more useful for both them and us. So once that is done, then we are ready to start scanning in the items. Most items you can scan the barcode like you see here, but there are going to be some items that do not have a barcode, and those are going to have to be manually searched for in the system. Anything with a barcode is much quicker and easier to get entered, because scanning it will just pull up most of the information that you need, and at that point you only have to worry about the price, the condition, and the grade. You will see that we will be using both price charts and eBay for specific items to go through and try to get an accurate price for. If it's an item that we already have in stock, that we know we already have, or that we get all the time, the price that our system tells us is most likely going to be accurate. But for a lot of games, we haven't had them in for a while, or it's a game we maybe have never had before, everything has to be double checked. You can see that the condition is being changed for an item. The default for most categories is to be complete if it is a disc-based game. The default for a cartridge category would be cartridge only, but if it's a PS2 game, for example, that is missing the manual, we have to go in and change that for that specific game. Same goes for condition. If a game is water damaged, or there's a rip on the manual or something like that, the default condition or the default grade would be listed as good, but in the case of water damaged case artwork, we would have to manually change that to poor condition. Changing the condition and the grade of each individual item is very time consuming, but it's the only way for us to have things listed accurately on our website. And as you guys know, we probably do half of our business on our website. And originally, the idea was to not keep track of this type of information and just have it basically that every game for sure has its original case, but it may or may not have the manual. We decided early on to try to keep track of these things, and they still slip through the cracks every now and then, and people might have to get a refund here or there for items that were not marked properly in our system. It's just a little difficult when you have 4 or 5 different people all doing separate trade-ins. To keep everything consistent between those 5 people can be a little bit difficult, but I think that we do a pretty good job overall. All of our employees know how to take in trades, and they know that you worry about condition and grade before you worry about price. So doing it that way allows us to keep it as consistent as possible, but of course there's always going to be little mistakes here and there. You may also notice that there is a serial number spot for every item. This is basically a little notes section that we are able to use. It only prints on the price tag. There is no information saved that goes to our website or anything like that. This is only on the price tag. We use it to indicate if maybe an item is in poor condition, if it's not extremely obvious. Sometimes a game might be marked as poor condition when the only problem with it is the manual. So we use it to mark it as poor just so that when our employees are pulling items for website orders, if they need to pull a poor condition item, they might not be able to tell between the 4 or 5 copies we have which one is poor. So putting it in the serial number spot so that it prints on the actual price tag makes it a little bit easier for them. You'll notice with this trade-in that there might be a couple items that do not have listings in our system already, so she's going to have to create them from scratch. This happens all the time. Every single day we are creating tons of listings. If it's a standard game that is being traded in, we already have a listing for it. The listings for every game are preloaded into our inventory software. But if you are trading in a movie or a toy or an accessory or a card or something like that, there is a very good chance that there is not a listing for it unless we've had it before and previously created that listing. So anytime we have to create a listing, it is extremely time consuming because not only do you have to create some sort of UPC code, usually it is something that has to do with the item. So she is entering a Sean Palmer snowboarding manual for Game Boy. So the UPC that she types in is probably something like Sean Palmer's Pro Snowboarder Manual or something along those lines. That would be the UPC. Then she's going to have to select the correct category, which in that case would be the Game Boy Advance Manuals category. And then she's going to have to type in the title of the item. This is what will print on the tag. This is also what will show up on the website. So it should say Sean Palmer's Pro Snowboarding Manual or something along those lines. Then she has to worry about the price. We have the new cost, which would be the new buy cost, which typically we wouldn't have a new manual because it would only be new if it's in the game sealed. However, every single item in the system has to have a new price and a new cost. Even if it's something generic that you're not using, there has to be some value in there. So she's going to enter something like that. Then we also have the pre-owned price, which would be the sell cost, which is what we're selling the item for, and then that will automatically generate a pre-owned buy cost and a pre-owned trade-in cost. These percentages are never great because we don't like to deal in values that are not full dollar amounts, or at least like 50-cent increments. So the default prices that it puts in there is usually not what we use. It's a starting point, but then we usually round up or down. And then, of course, like everything else, she has to worry about the condition and the grade. So the Game Boy Advance Manuals category has the automatic condition set to manual only because everything in that category should be a manual only. But then the grade still has to be entered correctly. Sometimes manuals can be water damaged, or they have a rip or a crease or something that will take it from the default good condition and bump it down to either fair or poor, or sometimes damaged, which we don't use very often, but if it was a manual that was completely missing the cover, it might be entered as damaged. So once all that information is in there, the listing is now created and she can move on to the next item. The good news is that once that new listing is created, it's there forever. So if we happen to get that same manual traded in a month, then all she has to do is search, and then she'll be able to pull up the same listing. Of course, we'll have to, re-look at the condition and the grade and the price, but at least the listing will be there to use. Once all of the items are actually entered into the trade and we have all of the correct conditions, all of the correct grades, and all of the correct selling prices entered accurately, then she needs to go through, and as you can see, we have a cash column and a trade column. Those are the prices that we would be paying for the item. So we normally will do both because sometimes we do not know if the customer trading in the items is looking to sell them for cash or if they want store credit. So the trade column would be the store credit offer. The cash column would, of course, be the cash offer. And if you can see the prices that she's putting in there, the trade price is going to be higher than the cash price. That's typically just how game stores work. So there's little buttons at the bottom. There's a cash and trade button. Whichever the customer wants, you would click that button before running their transaction through. If they want to take cash, it will open the register and you will pay them out the cash. If they want to take trade, assuming you already have their customer information put into the system like she does on this transaction, it will add that money to their account as store credit, which they can spend whenever they would like. Once the total cash and trade offers are tabulated, hopefully the customer will accept our offer. If not, the entire transaction gets deleted and all that time was unfortunately wasted. Of course, it's always up to the customer to decide if they want to sell their items or not. We are never upset with a customer for choosing to hold on to their items. It does happen. Usually, they will accept our offer and then the transaction is run through and completed. As you can see, this trade has taken almost half an hour to do, and this is a relatively small trade-in. This is also comprised primarily of items that are able to be scanned. This is not typical. We get a lot of trade-ins that are cartridges, and you have to manually look up every item. It just takes so much more time to do that. If it's a trade-in that's all PS2 games, it can be really quick and easy. But if it's a trade-in that's all Super Nintendo games, it's going to take at least 3 times as long because you're typing every individual title rather than just scanning the barcode, which of course is much, much quicker. So typically we are doing trades all day, every day. And we only really have the one computer to use for trade-ins. So she did this trade uninterrupted, but usually if this was a trade-in that was happening during the day, she would have to save it, exit, and check people out every couple minutes. So a trade-in that might take half an hour of uninterrupted time, in reality could take 40 minutes or more if we were actually open and she had to deal with other customers while trying to do the trade-in at the same time.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah?
Yeah, I have an offer for you.
Took you long enough. What is it?
It's $105 in cash.
105?
Yeah.
Dang. All right, let's do it. That's way more than I was expecting.
Awesome. Thank you for your patience.
You guys buy pop figures?
We do not buy pop figures.
What about workout DVDs?
Nope. Sorry.
Okay, just give me the money.
Okay.